Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is to take a towering stack of source material articles, histories, technical papers, personal notes, and really distill it into the insights you need to be truly well-informed. We're not here to just, read you a Wikipedia entry.
Right.
We're here to connect the dots and show how all these seemingly disparate parts of a career can coalesce into a true vision.
And today's subject, Dr. Mae Jemison, is the perfect challenge for this kind of deep dive.
Absolutely.
She's universally known, of course, as the first African-American woman in space, but confining her to just that title, it missed the point entirely.
It really does.
So our goal today is to go far beyond that single, 8-day flight and understand the interconnected threads of her life.
The physician, the chemical engineer,
The Peace Corps medical officer, the professional dancer, and, critically, the modern visionary for interstellar travel.
So for you, the learner, the core takeaway from her life story is, I think, profoundly simple. True expertise often comes not from focusing on one narrow field, but from mastering several.
Exactly. Her diverse background wasn't some kind of distraction.
No.
It became her single greatest asset in achieving something truly monumental. Her journey it fundamentally challenges the idea that you have to compartmentalize everything.
It's the ultimate synthesis, really, of science and the humanities.
It is. And what better way to set the stage for this life than with the ultimate symbol of that exact synthesis?
You know where I'm going with this.
I do.
When she finally reached orbit, serving as Mission Specialist 4 aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour,
On mission SPS-47.
she didn't just key up the standard NASA protocol. She opens communications on her shift with a line straight out of the science fiction universe that had first inspired her as a child.
Hailing frequencies open.
Chills. Every time.
That quote from Star Trek, it perfectly bridges the imagination of her childhood with the reality of her accomplishment. It encapsulates a life driven by turning speculative fiction into an absolute, tangible reality.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning of that trajectory.
Let's do it.
Mae Jemison was born in Decatur, Alabama in 1956. But the core formative period really began when her family moved north.
Right, to Chicago. She was raised primarily in the Woodlawn and later the Morgan Park neighborhoods.
And the foundation was laid by her parents, who were incredibly supportive.
Very. Her father, Charlie Jemison, he was a maintenance supervisor for a charity organization.
And her mother, Dorothy Jemison.
She was an elementary school teacher, taught English and math at Ludwig van Beethoven Elementary School. And this was clearly a family that valued rigor, valued intellectual curiosity.
Something her mother actively fostered, right?
Absolutely. Dorothy Jemison made sure that Mae had access to books and opportunities, always supporting her ambitions.
And it's so clear from the sources that from a very, very young age, we're talking kindergarten here, she was definite about her path.
Yeah, no hesitation.
She wanted to study science, and she wanted to go into space. But even that early ambition was met with what we would now recognize as institutionalized pushback.
Yes, the now famous kindergarten teacher incident.
Right.
So when young Mae expressed her desire to be a scientist, the teacher immediately made an assumption.
Based on gender and race.
Completely.
Yeah.
And suggested she must mean she wanted to be a nurse.
Which the sources highlight as this profoundly irritating moment for her.
Of course.
Yeah.
It crystallized, even at 5 years old, the societal boxes that other people were determined to put her in.
And that irritation wasn't unfounded. I mean, it was validated by the reality of the space program she was watching on TV.
Yeah. She later recounted being really, really irritated that there were no women astronauts during the entire Apollo era.
So that early frustration with the lack of representation seems to have just fueled her determination to break those barriers herself.
And interestingly, what provided the vision for what could be the antidote to the exclusion she saw in the real world was fictional.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Her interest in space was stoked profoundly by that show, and specifically Nichelle Nichols' portrayal of Lieutenant Uhura.
I mean, for a young African-American girl obsessed with space, seeing a black woman on the bridge of the Enterprise,
Running communications, no less?
it was a powerful visual confirmation. It didn't just inspire her, it validated the possibility that she, too, could belong there.
Which brings us to the second major pillar of her life, which I think is often forgotten in the high-tech narrative.
Dance.
Her deep, sustained love for dance. It began with ballet around age 8 or 9.
And this wasn't just a casual hobby, right? She had genuine competitive aspirations of becoming a professional dancer.
Oh, absolutely. The scope of her training really speaks to that dedication. The sources mention she studied African, Japanese, ballet, jazz, and modern dance.
That is far beyond a typical extracurricular activity.
Way beyond. By age 14, her talent was such that she auditioned for the leading role of Maria in West Side Story.
A huge performance role.
Huge. She was selected as a background dancer, but that cemented her commitment to the arts, even as her academic life was accelerating.
Okay, so we have to stop here for a second. Just let's unpack this.
Yeah.
A future chemical engineer and physician simultaneously pursuing complex physics and professional modern jazz choreography.
It's not a common CV.
Not at all. So the question is, how did she manage these dual demanding passions? And what did that interdisciplinary capacity teach her?
Well, it speaks to her extraordinary capacity for, simultaneous, intense focus. But also, I think, her understanding that these fields actually fed each other. Dance teaches discipline, spatial awareness, nonverbal communication, all critical elements in a close-quarters, high-stress environment.
Like a space shuttle.
Exactly. The physics of movement, the biomechanics of the body. She's integrating science and art long before she formalized it at Stanford.
And speaking of Stanford, that academic track was fast.
To say the least. She entered Stanford University at the remarkably young age of 16.
16. And she graduated in 1977. This pace meant she had to make some intense career choices very early on.
And those choices resulted in a truly unique academic profile. She graduated with a dual major,
Earning a Bachelor of Science degree in chemical engineering.
and a Bachelor of Arts degree in African and African American Studies.
That dual degree right there is the key. It's the key to understanding her entire future career. She was literally straddling the technical, world-precise, quantitative engineering and the humanities' cultural, political, historical analysis.
But that success came with a significant struggle.
Yeah.
The sources are really clear about her experience with discrimination from both students and teachers at Stanford. She noted how difficult it was to be an African American student, especially a young one, in her highly technical classes.
And this context makes her assertion all the more powerful. She stated that some arrogance is necessary for women and minorities to be successful in a white male-dominated society.
And when you analyze that quote, it's not about haughtiness.
Not at all.
It's about the necessary self-assertion, the refusal to dismiss your own validity when others are constantly trying to limit or stereotype you. It's a defense mechanism that became a psychological propellant for her.
And even while dealing with all of that academic stress, she still maintained her commitment to social engagement and the arts.
Right. She served as head of the Black Students Union.
And she choreographed and participated in a musical and dance production called Out of the Shadows. The arts were always the necessary counterbalance.
They were. And that pressure cooker really peaked during her senior year. She wrestled seriously with the choice between going straight to medical school and pursuing a career as a professional dancer.
The fact that professional dance was still a viable contender, even after 4 years of intensive engineering,
just shows how central the arts were to her identity.
Ultimately, she chose medicine. She recognized that her scientific passion and her humanitarian drive could best be combined in that field.
But she carried the discipline of the dancer with her. That dedication, that willingness to prioritize service alongside science. It carried her straight from Stanford into the next highly demanding phase of her life.
Global health work.
Exactly.
So following Stanford, she moves to the East Coast and enters Cornell Medical School. She earns her MD in 1981.
Right. And this phase, well before she ever put on a flight suit, was absolutely crucial in cementing her practical ability to perform under high stress with minimal resources.
And we have to emphasize, this wasn't just traditional classroom medical training.
Not even close. She immediately pursued global medical training, seeking out these challenging fieldwork opportunities internationally.
While at Cornell, she conducted a study in Cuba.
Worked at a Cambodian refugee camp in Thailand.
And even worked for the Flying Doctors Organization in East Africa.
I mean, that type of fieldwork is the ultimate test of a physician.
It really is. It's about diagnosing and treating complex issues, often infectious diseases or trauma, in environments where sophisticated labs and sterile supply chains just don't exist.
Right. It gave her invaluable experience in resourcefulness and rapid decision-making skills. We'll see later become absolutely critical for a mission specialist in space.
And maintaining the pattern of her life, she still continued her dance studies.
Took classes at the prestigious Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater during her Cornell years.
So the arts were always integrated, never sidelined. They were a form of self-care and continued discipline.
After her internship in LA and a stint as a general practitioner, she signed up for, maybe the most demanding humanitarian deployment available.
The Peace Corps.
She served as a medical officer in two West African nations, Liberia and Sierra Leone, from 1983 to 1985.
And these were not quiet administrative roles?
Oh no, these were demanding, sometimes dangerous, life-or-death operational environments in very remote areas.
Her responsibilities were just vast. I mean, they extended far beyond basic primary care.
Mhm. She supervised all the medical staff. She managed the pharmacy and the laboratory for the entire region, provided direct medical care.
And she wrote self-care manuals for volunteers. More importantly, she was responsible for developing and implementing health and safety guidelines across the whole region.
Dealing with endemic diseases, public health crises,
Yeah.
and linking back to a scientific rigor, she collaborated directly with the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, on vaccine research during this time.
So, to be conducting high-level research while simultaneously managing a low-resource regional medical operation, that's a significant level of responsibility.
It really is. It combines international public health logistics with applied scientific investigation.
And what's so fascinating here is, as we noted, many astronauts come from these highly structured, specialized military aviation backgrounds.
A test pilot track.
Exactly. Thousands of hours in jets. But Dr. Jemison's path through global public health showed a unique and equally valid capacity for high-stakes operational environments.
You raise an excellent point about that contrast.
Yeah.
While a pilot's experience is directly relevant to, high-G maneuvers and spacecraft control,
Right.
Jemison successfully argued the case for crisis management and self-sufficiency as equivalent or even superior preparation for the isolation of space.
It makes perfect sense. If you can manage a massive pharmaceutical supply chain and treat a complicated illness in a village hours from the nearest reliable electricity source.
You can certainly manage a medical emergency inside the space shuttle's controlled environment.
She was a doctor who could improvise, manage logistics under duress, and operate independently in severe conditions.
That preparation unknowingly equipped her perfectly for the challenges of spaceflight, which is, it's the most isolated, high-risk logistical environment imaginable.
So she returns to the U.S. in 1985, settles back in Los Angeles, and what does she do? She maintains her dual commitment.
Of course she does. She goes into private practice while also taking graduate-level engineering courses.
The stage was set for her childhood dream to finally become a reality. After years of dedication to global health, that spark that ignited her original ambition just flared up again.
Right. In 1983, she had seen both Sally Ride become the first American woman in space,
and Guion Bluford become the first African-American in space.
and those flights provided the modern, tangible inspiration she needed.
So she applies to the astronaut program in October 1985. Her timing, however, was immediately tested by tragedy.
NASA postponed the entire selection process following the devastating Space Shuttle Challenger disaster in January 1986.
But her resolve was not broken.
Not at all. She reapplied the very next year, in 1987, once the process resumed, and she was selected.
As one of only 15 candidates for NASA Astronaut Group 12.
A cohort often referred to as the first post-Challenger class, chosen out of roughly 2,000 applicants.
And this selection instantly elevated her public profile, right?
Oh, immediately. The Associated Press covered her as the first black woman astronaut. The profile was massive. It reflected the hunger the public had for diverse, inspiring figures in the space program following the disaster.
Before her launch, she was immersed in her preparatory groundwork. This included launch support activities at Kennedy Space Center.
And critically, software verification in the Shuttle Avionics Integration Laboratory.
Also known by the acronym SAIL.
Right. And let's just clarify what SAIL means for you, the learner.
Good idea.
The Shuttle Avionics Integration Laboratory was essentially a hardware-in-the-loop simulator. It contained actual shuttle flight hardware.
So software verification meant testing the complex flight control software and procedures in this simulated environment.
Exactly. It ensured that she had practical, system-level knowledge of the shuttle's operating systems, far beyond just her specialized mission role.
And her specialized role was confirmed on September 28, 1989, when she was officially named to the STS-47 crew.
She was designated Mission Specialist 4, but perhaps more importantly, she was also designated Science Mission Specialist.
Which was a newer NASA role at the time.
It was. Specifically tailored for astronauts with extensive research backgrounds to intensely focus on the scientific experiments carried on board. And her combined medical and engineering background made her the perfect fit.
The mission itself, STS-47, flew aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour from September 12th to the 20th, 1992.
It was highly significant for several reasons. It was the 50th shuttle mission overall.
And it was a major cooperative venture between the United States and Japan, designed to carry the Space Lab Japan module.
She logged just under 8 full days in space.
7 days, 22 hours, 30 minutes, 23 seconds, orbiting the Earth 127 times. She was assigned to the Blue Shift crew, and this, of course, brings us back to our opening anecdote.
Right. It's impossible to overstate the importance of that moment when she opened communications with hailing frequencies open.
It's just a direct affirmation that imagination and inspiration are just as critical to human exploration as calculations and engine thrust.
A perfect personal full-circle moment.
But her cultural contributions didn't stop there, did they?
No. She consciously used her limited personal stowage space to bring artifacts that reflected her identity and history into orbit.
She carried a poster from the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, honoring her commitment to dance.
A West African statuette, symbolizing her time and service in the Peace Corps.
And a photo of Bessie Coleman, the pioneering African-American aviator.
It was a conscious act of memorialization, inspiration, and personal integration.
And on the scientific front, that Space Lab Japan module was packed.
Packed with 43 Japanese and United States life science and materials processing experiments, and Jemison was the person ensuring the quality and execution of many of these complex experiments in microgravity.
Specifically, she co-investigated 2 critical bone cell research experiments.
Yeah, examining how bone density changes in zero gravity. This research is foundational to understanding the long-term health viability of astronauts on future long-duration missions.
To Mars or beyond, bone loss is one of the most immediate and serious physiological challenges of microgravity.
And she also had a crucial applied medical technology test. She tested NASA's fluid therapy system.
Now, this is a brilliant example of her applying her medical knowledge to an engineering challenge.
It is. The fluid therapy system involved specialized equipment to produce pure, sterile water for injection.
And then using IV bags and a mixing method to create saline solution in space.
Which is so crucial, right? On Earth, we take sterile IV fluids for granted.
Of course.
But for a remote long-duration mission, if an astronaut suffered severe dehydration or a massive trauma requiring fluid replacement, they need that saline immediately.
And the technical difficulty is ensuring that sterility aseptic technique in zero gravity, far from a hospital clean room, using limited resources.
Her medical expertise was paramount in validating the safety and feasibility of that system.
And then there was the famous amphibian experiment.
The frogs. She participated in a study designed to induce female frogs to ovulate, fertilize the eggs, and then observe tadpole development in zero gravity.
Which provided critical data on whether vertebrates could successfully reproduce and develop in a space environment.
The image of a doctor overseeing zero-gravity IVF for frogs is certainly memorable.
It is. She was also extensively trained alongside Japanese astronaut Mamoru Mori in a fascinating technique called the autogenic feedback training exercise.
Or AFT. And this detail is highly important because it forms the immediate bridge to her post-NASA entrepreneurial career.
So what is AFT?
AFTC, developed by psychologist Patricia Cowings, is a specialized biofeedback technique. Think of it as teaching your body's autonomous nervous system to manage severe stress.
So astronauts trained to use it can monitor and control specific physiological responses.
Exactly. Things like heart rate variability, skin temperature, muscle tension, all in order to combat motion sickness, anxiety, and stress-related disorders. It's self-regulation at a highly technical level.
After all that intense scientific and cultural contribution, her tenure at NASA was surprisingly short.
It was. In March 1993, just months after returning from orbit, she resigned from the agency.
That swift pivot often surprises people. But it really proves that for Dr. Jemison, time in orbit was just the launchpad for her broader long-term ambitions.
Exactly. She had achieved the impossible dream, she had proved her skills, and she gained an unparalleled platform. NASA training manager and author Homer Hickam expressed regret over her departure.
Noting the talent they lost.
Right, but she clearly saw the opportunity to apply her unique synthesis of skills engineering, medicine, sociocultural awareness on a global scale outside the confines of government work. She leveraged that practical experience into something much, much bigger.
So Dr. Jemison wasted absolutely no time in translating her space platform into entrepreneurial and educational endeavors.
None. In 1993, the very year she left NASA, she founded the Jemison Group, Inc.
And this was a brilliant move, perfectly aligning with her dual academic background. It wasn't a standard aerospace engineering firm.
No, it was a consulting firm specifically focused on analyzing the sociocultural impact of technological advancements in design.
Let's just delve into what that means for a second. If you build a new piece of infrastructure, say a water purification system, the engineer designs the pipes and pump.
But the sociocultural analyst looks at how that technology changes community dynamics, how it impacts local leadership, how it's maintained across different cultures, and whether it introduces economic disparity.
Her company basically formalized that philosophy.
That science and engineering cannot and should not operate in a vacuum. Her BA in African and African American Studies provided the critical framework for understanding those community-level consequences.
And she paired it perfectly with her chemical engineering background.
This was quickly followed by her nonprofit work, founding the Dorothy Jemison Foundation for Excellence.
Named in honor of her supportive mother, the elementary school teacher.
And the foundation's flagship initiative is The Earth We Share, or TTWS.
This is a residential science camp, a 4-week intensive program for students aged 12 to 16.
And the global reach of these camps immediately reflects her Peace Corps experience. They've been held internationally in South Africa, Tunisia, Switzerland.
As well as across the U.S. at institutions like Dartmouth and the Colorado School of Mines.
And the genius of TEWS lies in its methodology. The goal is to dramatically increase scientific literacy by developing critical thinking and problem-solving skills.
But they don't do it with abstract theory.
No. Students work in teams, using the scientific method to identify and solve a real community problem.
So it moves science out of the textbook and into practical, localized action.
Which is precisely how Jemison practiced medicine in West Africa.
Simultaneously, she maintained an active academic career.
Yep, she served as a professor of environmental studies at Dartmouth College from 1995 to 2002.
Where she directed the Jemison Institute for Advancing Technology in Developing Countries.
She also became an Andrew D. White Professor at Large at Cornell University starting in 1999.
So she's continuing her influence across major institutions. She has always been a fierce advocate for science education, especially for minority students.
And she's a key member of numerous scientific organizations, the AMA, the ACS, the AAAS. Her influence is persistent and very broad.
And remember that AFE biofeedback technique she tested on the shuttle?
I do.
That research item wasn't shelved. In 1999, she founded Biosentient Corps specifically to obtain the license and commercialize AFE for wider use on Earth.
She recognized a viable technology developed for space medicine and successfully adapted it for motion sickness, anxiety, and stress-related disorders in the general population.
It's the practical application of her space research translating directly to commercial healthcare.
And now we arrive at the segment that defines her vision for the future, a massive leap from low Earth orbit to the farthest reaches of human ambition.
Interstellar travel.
In 2012, the Dorothy Jemison Foundation for Excellence won a major $500,000 seed grant from DARPA.
The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
To lead the 100-Year Starship project. She is the current principal of the 100-Year Starship organization, which has kept that audacious name.
The name itself is it's staggering. 100-Year Starship. It sets an arbitrary yet critical time frame for the goal of achieving human interstellar travel within the next century.
This isn't about planning the next lunar base.
No, this is about planning for the long-term migration of humanity across galactic distances.
So if you connect this to the bigger picture, her transition from orbital mechanics specialist to leading a 100-year interstellar project shows an unparalleled leap in vision.
I mean, what does this project even entail? It requires solving challenges that span every single field she ever studied.
It's the ultimate interdisciplinary problem. It demands massive advances, not just in propulsion, how do we get there, but in life support and sociology.
Right. We need closed-loop ecosystems that can sustain humans for decades without resupply. We need fail-safe radiation shielding technology.
And critically, we need multi-generational sociological planning. How do you ensure the mental, physical, and governmental health of a crew born in space?
Her background is just perfectly suited to this. Her engineering informs the propulsion.
Her medical training informs the closed-loop health systems.
And her experience in African and African American studies, combined with her Peace Corps logistics, informs the necessary social and political framework for a multi-generational closed society.
She used the platform and the technical knowledge gained from her one-week spaceflight to secure major funding for the far future of exploration.
It's a powerful statement, really. Orbital experience is merely preparation for cosmic aspiration.
Hmm,
And Dr. Jemison's public life naturally remained deeply intertwined with the science fiction that inspired her journey.
right. We noted her hailing frequencies open, quote, on the shuttle, but this Star Trek connection came full circle in 1993.
That year, she appeared in an episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, titled Second Chances. She played Lieutenant Palmer.
A minor role, but she made history. She became the first real-life astronaut to appear on Star Trek.
And the anecdote behind this is just charming.
It is. LeVar Burton, the actor who played Geordi LaForge, knew she was a massive fan.
So when he learned she was returning from space, he personally invited her onto the set.
It's extremely rare to have your professional life loop back and intersect with the fictional universe that initially fueled your childhood dreams.
Beyond fictional appearances, she remains a highly active public speaker, using the immense platform that being an astronaut provides to promote science and technology education globally.
Her interest was never just in being an astronaut. It was about using that reputation for profound societal impact.
And she consistently speaks out strongly on social issues, drawing directly on her Peace Corps and early medical experiences.
Particularly concerning the gap in healthcare quality between the United States and the developing world. She makes a point of connecting aspiration with tangible action.
She often quoted Martin Luther King Jr., saying he didn't just have a dream, he got things done.
And that just encapsulates her philosophy of merging deep aspiration with rigorous practical application, whether that's delivering vaccines in Sierra Leone or designing a starship.
For several years, she was also the face of science communication for a large segment of the public.
Right. Hosting and serving as a technical consultant for the popular Discovery Channel science series World of Wonder from 94 to 98. This extended her influence beyond academia and into mainstream science literacy.
Her personal history also became a subject of public research in 2006.
When she participated in the PBS miniseries African American Lives, it used genetic testing and genealogy to trace the family histories of famous African Americans.
And the research revealed two fascinating and expansive historical nuggets. First, the genetic testing surprised her. It revealed she is 13% East Asian in her genetic makeup.
And second, and perhaps more grounding, she learned through genealogical research that some of her paternal ancestors were slaves at a plantation in Talladega County, Alabama.
These findings just root her story so firmly in the complex and often painful history of America. It adds so much depth to her accomplishments.
And we also have to impartially address a challenging incident from her personal life that occurred in the spring of 1996 in Nassau Bay, Texas.
Right. This became a significant public legal matter.
Jemison filed a formal complaint against a Nassau Bay police officer, Henry Hughes, following a traffic stop. She was initially pulled over for an illegal U-turn.
And was subsequently arrested based on an outstanding warrant for an unpaid speeding ticket, which she believed had already been paid years prior.
And the sources indicate that Jemison accused the officer of physical and emotional mistreatment during the arrest.
She alleged that he twisted her wrist, forced her to the ground, and forced her to walk barefoot from the patrol car into the police station.
She spent several hours in jail and was treated for deep bruises and a head injury after her release.
The incident prompted an internal police investigation, and the officer was suspended with pay.
However, the police investigation ultimately cleared the officer of wrongdoing regarding the use of force.
And following that decision, Dr. Jemison subsequently filed a civil lawsuit against both the city of Nassau Bay and the officer, ensuring the matter remained a subject of public record and legal contention.
Despite these personal and legal challenges, her professional accomplishments continued to garner immense recognition globally, solidifying her legacy across multiple fields.
The list of honors is just immense. It's reflective of her diverse impact. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993.
And the International Space Hall of Fame in 2004? She has received more than 15 honorary doctorates from major institutions, including Princeton, Dartmouth, and Harvey Mudd.
Furthermore, her name is immortalized in education, with numerous schools named after her.
Like the Mae Jemison Academy in Detroit and Jemison High School in Huntsville, Alabama, the very heart of the U.S. space industry.
And her recognition has extended into the popular sphere, reaching the children she targets with her science advocacy.
She was featured as a mini-figure in the highly popular Lego Women of NASA, set released in 2017.
Which is fantastic, and perhaps most significantly in terms of distilled wisdom, on International Women's Day in 2019, Google featured a doodle with one of her most memorable and defining quotes.
Never be limited by other people's limited imaginations.
That quote is, in many ways, the mission statement of her literary output. Her 2001 memoir for children, Find Where the Wind Goes. It didn't shy away from realism.
No, it gave a very honest view of her interactions with professors who judged her based on stereotypes rather than her intelligence.
It told young readers that those stereotypes are external limitations that must be overcome, not barriers to internalize.
And she continued to connect with the next generation by co-authoring a 4-book series for children in 2013, the A True Book series, where she often incorporated the grand, forward-looking themes of the 100-Year Starship project.
Ensuring that the next generation is already thinking about interstellar colonization before they even enter high school. So, if we look back at the scope of Dr. Mae Jemison's life, we see an astonishing trajectory defined not by straight lines, but by these convergent disciplines.
From a child irritated by the lack of representation in space to the first African-American woman in space.
And then immediately shifting focus to global science literacy and planning for the human migration to the stars over the next century.
Her career is the definition of refusing compartmentalization.
Yeah.
The engineering precision required to fly the shuttle, the medical expertise needed for the crew's health, the social sciences required to found a successful consulting firm, and the art and self-assurance that drove her from day one. She proves that all those skills are necessary.
She demonstrates definitively that the most complex challenges facing humanity, whether it's space exploration, global health disparity, or figuring out propulsion for interstellar travel, they require more than just deep technical knowledge.
They require humanistic understanding, ethical considerations, and creative thinking. You need the precision of the engineer and the empathy of the humanitarian.
And that brings us to the final analysis, something for you, the learner, to take away from this deep dive into her profile.
Dr. Jemison's career is a living argument that exploration is not limited to geography or technology. It's about pushing the boundaries of human thought and combining skills others deem incompatible.
We heard her famous quote, "Never be limited by other people's limited imaginations." So we ask you this. If a 1-week orbital space mission, a brief snapshot of her life, was enough to inspire, launch, and secure funding for a 100-year civilization-spanning plan,
Right.
what small, surprising part of your current focus, that passion you keep quiet or that skill you think is irrelevant, could lead to your next century-spanning ambition?
What assumption are you holding on to about your own capacity or field that Dr. Jemison, the engineer, Dr. Answer humanitarian, would tell you to challenge immediately?
That is the ultimate deep dive, looking within your own profile and refusing to let others define what's possible for you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.